Hi, this is Mark News from Plant Talk Radio. Thanks for subscribing and listening to our podcast, Your Gardening Questions from Plant Talk Radio. If you have a gardening question you'd like our host Fred Howard to answer, send him an email. The email address is fred@planttalkradio.com. Now for today's question.
Good morning, guys. This morning I have what I think is called a trick question.
Okay.
Because I have a lot of healthy things around my house, I would like to ask you if I can trim back and when to transplant a very old, healthier Weigela.
Okay.
And which side of the house is best to plant it?
Well, now let's start with which side of the house. Not on the north, because usually there's not enough bright sun to really hype a plant like a Weigela. Then you go to the east, south, and west, and it should work in any of those places. It'll depend on variety. There are some new dwarfs, especially in the variegated group, that are quite attractive. And by dwarf, let's just say they'll hit maybe a max of 2.5 by 2.5, whereas the old standard Weigela can get to be 5 foot or more in width and height. They flower on new stems, new growth next year, so you could, at least if you have the one, well, we'll call it the typical kind, you could prune them this fall, and they would put out new growth. Now, wait a minute. Am I thinking right? Wow. I haven't thought about Weigela.
I know, my Weigela is hanging right where the American flag hangs and all my other flags that I hang up there for seasonal.
Okay.
And it is, I've had to cut it back so much that it needs to either come out and get a new one or transplant it. And you're saying they have a dwarf one out there?
Yes. I can't give you the cultivar name, but I know that it is a cream toward white mixed with a medium grade green. Quite attractive. I have one that is in a pitiful situation. I wanted to check its durability, and I'm finding out that it is quite tolerant of too much water, too little light, and so on. It still gives me some beautiful, cheery red flowers. And as I am now thinking about the plant, I think it flowers on the old stems from last year. So, you may have to sacrifice a year of flowering and just simply cut the plant down, get all of the big old dead stems out from inside. And I've done this. Well, I had my crew do it, and it was 2 years before the plant came back into bloom. The lady was concerned that we had done the wrong, or not we had, but wrong things had happened. But it came along and was fine then for the next several years that I'm aware of. Sturdy old plant. The only thing it won't tolerate is standing in water or very wet soil. It'll go toward drought-like considerations. In medium and normal ground, once you're past the second year of growth, you don't have to water it. You don't have to tend it much. Very few diseases and insects and so on. I would be inclined to try to resurrect the plant, since it is doing well. Is it flowering for you? Let me just start there.
When I don't trim it back in the fall or whatever, it will bloom.
Okay.
But as soon as it's like it's hitting my flag, so it's like it has grown more than ever.
Okay.
It does bloom a little bit, yes, but I've interfered with it, I think, by trimming it back. But it has bloomed beautifully with pink.
Okay. There are several cultivars of Weigela. It is not a highly favored plant right now. Used to be, let's call it one of Grandma's favorites. It just it just simply doesn't get as much notice anymore. But this new, and I think there are a couple of new varieties that have, the one I have is a pink flowering with these beautiful little leaves. Right now it's, it hits knee high and maybe 2 feet across. So it's not a very expansive as such. However, I think if I put it in a decent spot, gave it more sun, it would about double what I'm telling you. And indeed, as I think about it, and now as you explain, I think it flowers on old tissue, so you would prune right following the bloom next year.
Hey, thanks again for listening to our podcast. Be sure to subscribe to our other podcasts as well, the Plant of the Week podcast and the Plant Talk Radio podcast, all on iTunes or your favorite podcast player. If you'd like to sponsor a daily podcast, contact us at fred@planttalkradio.com. To find out more about Fred Hauer and Plant Talk Radio, visit our website, planttalkradio.com.
Circle270media.com